Many multinational firms shift profits to where they're taxed least. But what kind of firms indulge in this accounting trick? And could we do more to discourage them? A new global database has some of the answers. Hello, Manthos.
Hello, team.
And hello, Fotis as well.
Hello, Tim.
Now, Manthos, you start me off. What is profit shifting between subsidiaries? Why is it useful for firms? Why do they do it?
So really the strategy refers to, it's a tax planning strategy of multinational enterprises that have subsidiaries in low tax jurisdictions, right? So the parent firm or the subsidiaries in the high tax countries shift profits to the low tax jurisdictions in order to pay less taxes and then maximize, of course, the M&E's after-tax profit.
And they're not committing any crime by doing this, so how worried should we be, either as policymakers or as citizens?
Well, we should be worried for at least three reasons, or it might be more. So the first is there's government erosion of government revenue, right, which worsens sovereign deficit and debt. A second is that there is lower tax fairness. So on the firm side, this might favor monopolistic practices that benefit from profit shifting over time over firms that do not benefit from these practices. And from a government viewpoint, this might lower the quantity and the quality of public goods and the provision of these goods. And the third issue is that there might be an increase in economic inequality, and this increase might be, of course, exacerbated by profit shifting. And this is both because some firms pay lower taxes, but also because governments cannot use the foregone revenue in order to redistribute income more effectively. And of course, there are efforts and policies from government and international organizations to contain the practice. But again, this is still at an embryonic phase.
Now, you're examining the role of intangible assets in all of this. For the purposes of what we're doing, what assets do we count as intangible?
Okay, so intangible assets include assets like goodwill, patents, brands, copyrights, trademarks, all these intellectual property assets, royalties. These are the most common examples.
And I think your argument is that it's easier to shift profits, or it might be easier to shift profits if more of your assets are intangible. Why is this?
Yes, exactly. Unlike tangible assets, intangibles are not physical in nature, so multinationals can locate them easily in foreign countries. They do so either by relocating patents or by setting up holding companies. Moreover, existing accounting standards leave much room for the valuation of these assets because often market values are missing. And this creates an opportunity, of course, for the subsidiaries to shift profits by overstating the internal transfer price of these intangible assets.
So what did you set out to test in this paper?
Our first goal was to introduce a global profit shifting dataset in which we estimate profit shifting measures at the subsidiary year level. Second, we want to explore whether there is a connection between profit shifting and the intangible assets. And third, we want to see if this connection, we focus on the role of institutional quality in this connection, and we want to see whether institutional quality reduces the role of intangible assets to profit shifting.
Now, this clearly requires quite a lot of data. I'd imagine it's quite difficult to get the data together. Where did you get it from?
We got the data from the Orbis dataset, which is a dataset provided by the Bureau van Dijk. And this dataset has financial data from all around the world. And it provides accounting data. And of course, we used some macro variables also, like corporate tax rates and data for the quality of institutions. And we got this data from the World Bank and from the corporate tax guides of Ernst & Young.
So let's have a look at the results there. In which countries do you find that there is more profit shifting, which are receiving more of these profits due to profit shifting?
Okay, so consistent with our expectations and what we hear from the news, we found that subsidiaries in tax haven countries like the Cayman Islands, the Bermuda, Oman, engage in more profit shifting. Now, regarding the developed economies, we found that profit shifting in Ireland is the most prominent one. However, I would like to add at this point that our index is a comparative one, and it does not have a money value, a dollar value. We use this index to compare profit shifting of these firms, the profit shifting intensity of these firms.
So do firms with those higher levels of intangible assets, are they doing more profit shifting?
Yes, these firms are doing more profit shifting. First of all, we noticed that the profit shifting average declines after 2011, but not for firms with intangible assets, which display an increase in profit shifting. And our favored estimate shows that one standard deviation increase in the intangible to total assets ratio causes an approximately 4% increase in profit shifting. And we also showed that this effect is stronger in countries with lower institutional quality.
As you say, there are some efforts to try and discourage this. The OECD has been very active in this. From what you're seeing in this research, is the OECD's pressure to discourage profit shifting, is that working? Do we need to do more?
Well, Tim, I believe this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, for policymakers and us individuals. I mean, the OECD initiatives and the June agreement, just last June, among the G7 finance ministers, there was to pose a global minimum corporate tax rate of at least 15%. And as long as this is happening, it's a major step towards the direction that we are looking at, I mean, to limit international profit shifting for tax-related purposes. However, I believe that we do need stronger action towards the transparency of the data, especially in the tax havens, because right now we don't have good data exactly on the countries where profit shifting happens the most. And we also need better ways to evaluate intangible assets and similar financial data, even from an accounting perspective. And I'm thinking that the only way forward really to limit these practices is to have a system of electronic payments that monitors production revenue, as long as monitoring at the same time tax revenue for these specific MNEs that do the most profit shifting in the world. I mean, these are the right steps in the direction we're looking at, both in our analysis in terms of research, but also from a policy-making perspective.
Well, let's see if these steps are taken. There's certainly more attention on it than at any time that I can remember. But thank you very much for talking about it today. Thank you, Manthos.
Thank you very much, Tim.
And thank you, Fotis, as well.
Thank you, Tim.
The paper we've been discussing is called Global Evidence on Profit Shifting, the Role of Intangible Assets. And the authors are Manthos Delis, Fotis Delis, Luc Leven and Stephen Ongenin. It is discussion paper 16615 at the CEPR. And there's a link if you want to download it on the screen now. Well, thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.